Tests and homework are everywhere. Since elementary school, tests and homework were a necessary part in teaching curriculum. Imagine tests becoming part of your homework. You signed up for a class with specific outlined hours, and adding on to your already assigned homework, a teacher assigns a 1-hour time test outside of class time. This house should ban the assigning of time tests and quizzes outside of class time. This is a proposition of policy and will benefit both students and teachers. So to define some terms, class time is the allotted period of time agreed upon the student when signing up for the class. Time tests and quizzes are any form of graded assessment with limits on time and resources available during the testing period. These can also be defined by the teacher or the professor in the situation. Homework are assignments given that are only limited by the time in which between the class periods, so think 24 hours until it is due the next day. Differences in homework and tests are going to be summed up in a nutshell over here. So homework is a student's own work that's graded with long periods of time for completion and no supervision of activity from the teacher professor. Whereas time tests and quizzes are also a student's own work that's graded, but with limited accessibility to resources in a shorter period of time length. So think like the length of a class time period to complete and turn in the test. Homework and tests are similar in some ways, so both are after school, and sources referring to homework as outside class stressors can be applied to tests since these tests are outside of class. Any sources used in this debate defining homework in any other way becomes not valid. There are differences between a student getting 24 hours to start a test with a 1-hour time limit and a student getting 24 hours to complete the test from start to finish. So to preview a few of the ideas that will be mentioned, stress is related to after-class work. The disadvantages of time tests will also be mentioned. There are many environmental factors of testing outside of class that can result in difficulties of taking tests after class, and there are benefits for both teachers and students. So moving on to why tests after class are a problem. According to Healthline, when it came to stress, more than 70% of students said that they were often or always stressed over schoolwork, with 56% listing homework as a primary stressor. Less than 1% of the students said homework was not a stressor. After getting statistics from 10 high-performing high schools in California, this was the result. If we consider these tests as an addition to homework, similar statistics of stress can be applied. So the statistics used for homework in this situation can also be applied to tests that are taken outside of class. So according to Oxford Learning, too much homework can also result in less active learning, a type of learning that occurs in context and encourages participation. Active learning promotes the analysis and application of class content in real-world settings. Homework does not always provide these opportunities, leading to boredom and a lack of problem-solving skills. So tests will also apply here because the tests are not considered active learning. And then moving on to the next point, students with jobs and other responsibilities that were unaware of testing after class can be affected. For example, a teacher gives 3 hours for a student to start the test and 1 hour to complete the test once the class is finished. A student has a work shift or responsibility that extends to past that period of time. Now think about it. How does that affect the student? Moving on, according to CPR News' Joshua Kim, a director of online programs and strategy at the Dartmouth Center for the Advancement of Learning, timed exams create stress, not for every student in every exam, but enough students in enough exams. This then moves forward to the Harvard Graduate School of Education that states that the testing mode does matter. Refer to the situation in which a student takes a test. They might not be home to take it or have access to a computer to take it. The resources may not be sufficient for students to take tests outside of class depending on their situation. There's also a huge difference between paper tests and online tests, with online tests having significant disadvantages to students. Moving on to some of the advantages of why having tests after class is why having tests during class time is good is there would be less stress. There's potential for better performance on tests. Students have more freedom outside of the classroom. Teachers will worry less about cheating. Students can ask questions about test format directly, and there will be consistent testing environments. To dive deeper into some of these points, we will first start off with the idea that students will be given more freedom outside of class time. So a student can pick up a shift or keep shifts for work. This is incredibly beneficial to students that belong to low-income families and for students that really want to help with financial reasons. Teachers will also have to worry less about cheating, so they will have direct control over the environment of the test. And then moving on to the point where students can ask questions about the test format and ask for clarification. This would reduce the time spent trying to email professor or teacher during a test, and also eliminate the idea that a teacher might not answer to that said email or answer to that message. Because if they don't respond, then how will you know how to define the terms of the test if you are confused and it's timed? And then moving lastly to the consistent testing environment. So whether online or in person, the class time test can be monitored by the professor directly. The conditions are also the same for all the students in the physical classroom. So think of a quiet environment, same desks, same chairs, which would be kept the same. And then the conditions of video monitor tests online can also be kept very similar, despite that students are not going to be in person. So the students can be seen by the professor or can talk to the professor directly, as mentioned before. And if something is wrong with their environment, they can directly message the professor and let them know that something is wrong. Thank you.